Okay, I think I'm alive. Let me know if you. Oh, I'm doing it with my iPad because it's not working here for some reason. Okay. Okay, can you guys see me? Is this working? Okay, it's working. I guess my laptop doesn't do live streams. Um, Golly. Okay. Well, here we are. It worked. Okay, so first off, my video got claimed this morning for before I even released it. I'll have to post it again later. And actually, pull my chair up here. I'm actually kind of glad that happened because it's been something I've been wanting to talk about for well, since last week, since Ozzy's passing. And I'm thinking about Ozzy. It's been a really tough few months. I mean, Ozzy passed last week, and you think about some of the other people that have passed. You had Brian Wilson. Man, I look weird with this iPad view, but yeah, Brian Wilson, George Kooymans, the Golden Earring recently. Mick Ralphs, guitarist of Bad Company, Mott the Hoople, Sly Stone, John Sykes, Whitesnake, Roberta Flack, David Johansen from the New York Dolls, Marianne Faithfull. That's just within the last few months. And just pull this a little closer here. It's a very sobering thought. It got me thinking about, if you think about it, the peak of classic rock, we didn't know it was classic rock. It was called classic after it was over, was in the 70s. With, Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and FM radio and everything that happened there. And gosh, my chair, there's something wrong with my chair. It keeps falling. Anyway, it got me thinking there are only a few bands that all their original members are still alive from the peak of classic rock in the 70s. So I think, I mean, I may be forgetting a few, but off the top of my head, Aerosmith, Blue Oyster Cult, Kiss, Cheap Trick, that's about it. And to me, when I was growing up as a kid, it seemed like these guys were immortal. Did it seem like that for you? When I would watch it on MTV, later see them in concert, listen to my dad would listen to his 8 tracks and his vinyl, and I would look at the covers and just go through the ritual of playing, spinning the black circle as they call it, pulling the album out, reading the liner notes, and looking at the art. These bands were mysterious. This was before the internet, of course, and then they just seemed immortal. The golden gods of rock, gods little g. I don't want to offend anybody there. I've said that before, and I've gotten taken to the cleaners. But and so to me, they seem immortal. And I was recently also doing an interview with an icon of rock, and I'm not going to say who it was, and please don't speculate, but it was tough because throughout the interview, this person was forgetting the stories, couldn't remember, and it was really sad. And so, then I made a list before I started doing this of 15 artists that I wanted to get before I leave this earth. And at the top of the list were Brian Wilson, Sting, and Billy Joel. And I've been fortunate to be able to interview Sting and Brian Wilson. Man, I cherish that Brian Wilson interview, especially since he's passed. But Billy Joel, I actually had an interview scheduled with him in May because he was supposed to come and play in Salt Lake City with Sting. And then he was diagnosed with brain disorder and had to cancel his tour. So that was also a sobering thing. And then the other day I went to Brit Floyd. I took my son and his friend for his birthday to Brit Floyd, the #1 Pink Floyd tribute band in the world. And they're amazing. In fact, one of the members that started it was with Aussie Pink Floyd. And he was invited to play David Gilmour's birthday party because Gilmour was so blown away by how great they were. Anyway, I bring that up because now these things, because they're gone. You'll never see these guys ever again. see Pink Floyd live. I got to see David Gilmour last year, but I don't mean to be morbid here, but brace yourself because the next 10 years are going to be excruciating in terms of that, because we've already lost so many legends in recent years, but it's sadly only going to keep happening. And I hope and pray that they live to be 150 years old. But average life expectancy is what, 75.6 or something like that. So let's give the benefit of the doubt, 76 years of age for males in this world, give or take, depending on the where you're at. But 70. So let's go with 75, 76. The musicians who are 75 to 79. Check this out: Alice Cooper, Peter Gabriel, Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top, David Gilmour, Don Henley, Eagles, Billy Joel, Elton John, John Paul Jones from Zeppelin, Van Morrison, Stevie Nicks, Robert Plant, Iggy Pop, Patti Smith, Pete Townsend, Neil Young, and the list goes on and on and on. Okay, so there's that. Then ages 80 to 90. This is going to blow your mind. Eric Clapton, Roger Daltrey, The Who, Bob Dylan, John Fogerty, CCR, Debbie Harry. Debbie Harry doesn't seem. Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, and Steve Miller, and Graham Nash, and Jimmy Page, Keith Richards, on and on and on. Bob Seger, Paul Simon, Grace Slick, Ringo Starr, Rod Stewart, Stephen Stills, Roger Waters. The list goes on and on. That's from 75 to 90. Okay. And then you got like Phil Collins and Neil Diamond, who's both are in very poor health. And I was kicking myself. I never got to see Phil live. I got to see Neil. My dad was a huge fan. But it's, I mean, I remember when Dan Fogelberg passed away, that just gutted me. Because I love Dan, his music so much, and the press didn't make a big deal of it. We talked about that before, but Tom Petty, that one really hurt. I remember calling my dad, so when my dad was still alive, and we talked back and forth, because it was like 2 or 3 days where they didn't know if he was going to make it, and that was a very tough one, because my dad and I both love Petty so much, and Glenn Frey was another one that really hurt, and then Eddie Van Halen. That gutted me. That like most of you. So I remember, like, just recently, I was talking to a neighbor of mine. He was saying, why do we care so much? Why do we take it so hard? Oh, thank you, Mitch. I appreciate it. Why do we take it so hard? I mean, we never knew these rock stars. We never knew these icons. Well, in some cases, I did know them, or I do know them. And, and I'm sure some of you did know them as well from meeting at concerts. But that's not the point. That's not really the point here. I think the reason that it hits us so hard is because, a couple things. I think it reminds us, I've been thinking about this the last few days, it reminds us of our own mortality, because, like I said, if they're immortal, right, in our eyes, they're immortal, the golden gods of rock, and they're invincible. When they fall, it makes, I don't know, life seem that much more fragile. It makes it seem like that, the end is maybe closer than we want to believe that it is. For me, it's another tough thing because it reminds me that my own dad is gone. My dad, because I've talked about it so many times on the channel that our bond, my dad and I, our bond was music. And thank you, Roy and Dave. Excuse me, Ray. I can't see. Ray and Dave Davies. Bill Emmerich talking about Ray and Dave Davies. That's right. I left. I thought that the screen name was Roy and Dave Davies is Ray. Bill was saying Ray and Dave Davies. So anyway, it reminds me of my own dad's passing, that he's gone. I remember I actually picked up the phone when Ozzy passed, about to call my dad. And I know it's been like 6 years since my dad passed away. The anniversary is coming up in a few days. But the human mind plays tricks. It does. It's like, man, I miss my dad every single day. And that's the thing that bonded us as I was growing up. So there's that. And then I think it's also, we take it so hard because it's a reflection of ourselves, our memories, our passions, our possibilities. That's what their music and what they've meant to us. I mean, when they're gone, it's almost like the death of all of those things. I don't know. Am I getting too crazy here? You never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. I love that saying. That's one of my favorite sayings. And it's so true because that's what happens. We don't know that when we're listening to or we're seeing this person in concert, it's the last time we're going to see him in concert. Or, when we hear them in an interview, that's the last time we're going to hear them in an interview, that kind of thing. And in our own lives, I remember the week before my dad passed away, he was down here visiting me because he's living in Idaho. And we went out to dinner and I got sick. I ate something bad and I got sick. It was in the bathroom. And not to give too much detail there, but I have stomach problems. I have for many, many years, for about 25 years. And I remember sitting in there and I felt this strong feeling, get out. It doesn't matter if you're sick. Because my dad was leaving, my mom and dad were leaving to go back, and we'd already had dinner. And they're about to leave, and I had this overwhelming feeling, get out there, go say goodbye to your dad. And so even though I was feeling horrible, I was feeling very sick, I pushed myself to get out, and I went out and said goodbye to my dad, and I gave him a hug. And I didn't know that that was going to be the last time that I would ever hug him. About 3 days later, I called him to ask him a question. We were putting in some new carpet in our home, and I didn't get him on the phone, and he called me back, and we never connected. And then when he went into a coma because he'd had a stroke, and I was able to go say goodbye to him, he was on support for three days. He couldn't speak, but he could speak with his eyes. I went back to that moment and wished that I could have taken that phone call. Thank you, Kevin. But then all these years later, I'm grateful that I didn't, because my last moment with him was that hug, was that embrace outside of this restaurant. And now every time I go by that restaurant, it just hits me. Again, we don't know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And then we go back and we have all these what ifs. But for me, when we lose an icon, it's a sobering reminder to spend quality time with our loved ones. That may sound crazy, but to say the important things that you need to say, to forgive, to embrace life, to go to a lot of concerts, because you never know. So I think even though it's tough, I think we have to realize that even when we lose these incredible icons like Ozzy and Brian Wilson, and a few years ago Eddie Van Halen, Lead Submarine just asked, do you ever go see tribute bands? I do. Again, Brit Floyd, go see them. They're really great. But anyway, finish my thought there. When we do lose these icons, we lose them, we have to remember that even though it's heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, to remember that the music is still alive. Their music will never leave us. Songs, I've said it so many times, are a time machine, and they take us back to those moments that we want to experience, that we yearn for every single time when we hear it. It's just it's a time machine. It's the only thing besides scent, smell, and there's not an iPod or an iPhone, a playlist that will give you scents or smells. I've always said that the person that could invent that would be a trillionaire, because that's the only thing that's more potent to me than sound, than music. But maybe not. But it's realization for me that the music is still alive, and they live on through that music. You never truly die until there's, what was the saying? That you never truly die until there's the last possible person on this earth that is gone, that has you in their memory. I'm trying to remember what that was. David Bowie, exactly. Kevin Adams just said, I'm still hurting over Bowie's death. I totally. But every time that we hear Ziggy Stardust, or we hear any Rebel or any of those incredible songs, he lives on, and so that we have to remember that, and have to remember that they're mortal just like us, and that's why That's why for me, it's a race to capture their essence, their stories. That's why it's so important what Rick Beato does. I was talking to Rick yesterday, and what I'm trying to do, what other people are trying to do to capture that essence, the stories of the songs, the reason why these songs mean so much in our culture. And so I think that's so important. Um, and so anyway, I just wanted to say that it's a sobering thought. The next 10 years are really going to suck. That's why you got to live life. You got to enjoy, it, go see these guys in concerts. Don't let anything pass. Real quick before we go, I did want to give you an update on where the channel is. Thank you so much for the support over the last couple of weeks, and the support of the creator community with Justin Hawkins and with Rick Beato. Become close with those guys. Man, Rick is just awesome. I just love that guy. He sent me a text about a week ago with all of his claims saying every day, smiley face. It's like we're battling it. We're in this battle together. We're gonna and it was just cool. In a way, it was cool for this to happen because the creator community, we came together and we're going to fight because, and again, that's why this video is being made is so important. We got to continue to, to keep their music alive and raise. I've tried to raise my kids on. I mean, seeing my son at Brit Floyd and the expression on he and his friend's face, even though it wasn't Pink Floyd, but just to see them when they played Comfortably Numb and Great Gig in the Sky, and they were just like, "Whoa, this is incredible!" So, that's something that I remember myself when I first saw my very first concert. So, but to give you a little update, it was kind of interesting because I got copyright claims today. I got copyright claims on my tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, even though we're trying to tribute Ozzy, you got sorry, I've got a couple people come in here. Fuzzy, I can't say the last part of that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you could do a career retrospective about Pearl Jam, that would be awesome. And then I know that I've missed somebody that's come in. It was let me just click on this. It was Jerry Oxley. Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate it. Okay, so anyway, my thought was, so I got claims on this on the Ozzy video couple, and I'm thinking the labels still have to have their pound of flesh, even though we're trying to tribute this artist. Then the other really funny thing is that I did that video on Gary Glitter on Rock and Roll Part 2 about it being completely canceled, that you'll never hear this song again. And I got a claim and got the music pulled out of Rock and Roll Part 2. So it truly was canceled, even canceled from my own video. They were still trying to make money off of that. And I had to pull that out because it was going to be blocked, or it was blocked. So I just thought that was funny. Life imitated art. So, oh, sorry. I've got it. Desert to Brew Crew. Thank you, Professor. Always bringing memories back. That's my job. That's what I want to do. And that's what I hope to continue to do. Anyway, I even got a copyright claim on the Weird Al. I've never gotten a copyright claim on Al's stuff. And it's an interview with Al. So anyway, they're out there. We're battling every single day. We will continue to. But I don't want to end on that. I don't want to end on a negative. What I want to do, you can see I'm here in my library. Did you see my Kermit the Frog up there? That's an actual Kermit the Frog prop from the Muppets. Some pretty cool stuff there. I've got just a ton of stuff in here. In fact, one of the cool things that my kids just gave me as a gift was I wanted to show you this really quick. Is Beatles on Ed Sullivan. It's like a Lego. Well, it's a mega set, kind of like Lego. Anyway, very cool. But I want to end on this. To repeat this thought one last time, is you never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. I think that I heard that in this show called Son of a Critch. Have you guys seen this show? It's on Netflix, and it's about a kid in Newfoundland growing up in the 80s. And I love it. It's got Malcolm McDowell plays the grandfather, and it's like Wonder Years meets the 80s, and it's really great. And I heard that the other day, and I had to pause and rewind it and write that down. That, to me, that is an incredible quote. Never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. And so, I guess in the words of Robin Williams, from Dead Poet Society, carpe diem. Seize the day. Let these things be a reminder to live life to the fullest. And one last thing to leave you with: the crossover that a lot of people have asked for, Rick Beato, Professor Rock. It's going to happen. So stay tuned. I just, again, so much, just appreciate all of you, Rick, all the other creators, Justin, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to leave you with that thought, and seize the day. Go see concerts, listen to music, share it with your kids, with their kids, with whoever. We got to keep these memories alive. And thank you so much, Konkoff. I'm going to sign off now. Until next time, truly, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Thanks so much for watching.